So to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation.
Wait, the more I think about it, the heavier it gets.
Bradley Gimbert is the CEO and founder of Indigenous Wealth. He has overcome much adversity, including growing up in the Housing Commission and being incarcerated.
You can either sink, swim, or be the captain. You might get the last word, but I might get the last laugh.
Yeah. I like that one.
That's the only way to predict the future, is just to make the fucking decision and then go create it.
When I was like learning that I was adopted, there would always be this narrative around like how bad it is. As I formed my own opinion of it, I actually believe it was the true source of my independence. Yeah, I was reading and training.
Right.
And when I got out, that was super apparent.
Like if you're in prison, like you're doing this routine every day, then you get out and everyone's like, why the fuck is this guy so confident?
So my like scars or deficiencies, you'd call them, my strengths, my solid gold parts. Well, what does that mean for you? How does that come out in the wash of who you are? All right, and so what you transmute it into is the determining factor of.
Bradley, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Dude, we had so much fun together just hanging out on the last episode that we thought it'd be fun to invite you back. We both have a love for knowledge and learning and overcoming challenges. And we share a lot in common from, I guess, our childhoods in many aspects, you know, going through trauma and then building ourselves from nothing into something. I thought it'd be really fun, and as did the team, to sit down and just share quotes and to go back and forth, discuss what they mean to us, and just to jam out and talk about, you know, experiences and how these quotes have helped carry us through good times and bad times.
Sounds good. I'm actually, we had such a good time last time. It was, I actually said to Cam and even my own team, it was so much fun. Like, it was just so much fun. Where I remember early days doing podcasts, it was a bit of a punish, a bit of a thing. But that was the first time I actually genuinely enjoyed it, you know, so it's good to be back and get through the quotes.
And I think, you know, podcasting is in many aspects like, you know, I kind of look at it like weirdly like an obscure format of performance. In a sense where, you know, the best performances are the ones that are raw and feel real.
Ones that aren't performed almost.
Yeah, I mean, like the best actors come from a real place, a real experience. And I think, you know, when you're trying to formulate content, you're trying to, I guess, investigate someone's mind and their experience and how they apply themselves to the world when they take an agency with whatever they're doing. You know, I think a quote that comes to mind for me that makes me laugh, and I wanted to open with this one, was a quote from Johnny Knoxville. And it's, I know it's going to end bad, but I'm going to pretend it's going to end good. The reason I like this quote is every time I read it, it makes me smile. It reminds me that almost everything always goes bad in some way, shape, or form. Nothing ends perfect. And that's okay. Just do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
When I first saw this quote, it spoke to me because Johnny Knoxville strikes me as the kind of person who's kind of a pirate, a comedian, a stuntman, someone who likes to do the things that you shouldn't and exploit that and turn that into content. When I started applying myself to business, the first conversations that I typically had, which were, hey, this is my idea. I want to start an agency. I want to make it big. Everyone's immediate response to that was, yeah, but what if X happens? What if Y happens? What if Z happens? And my response was, yeah, like it's likely that shit's going to hit the fan everywhere the whole way through. But let's pretend it won't, because that makes it more fun and that kind of lifts my spirits, and maybe we should do it anyways. It's almost like put your chin up and just ignore the bad shit. Sometimes just that is enough to keep going forward.
100%. I think, yeah, that's a deadly quote. So you just straight away think of like his jackass time, you know? But 100% like, for me, it's like perspective, you know? And I think, I can't remember who said this particularly, but there's a few quotes that come straight to mind. And it's, well, like I only believe in the perspective that serves me, right? And it's like, it doesn't serve me to believe that it's all going to go wrong. Of course it's going to go wrong. Like, you know, it's like, we know it's going to be bad, but I know I'm going to go through it anyway. And so when that happens, it's going to be good. And so believing in the good part is I think, much more empowering, firstly. But there's another quote that comes to mind, and I'm going to do a terrible job of this because it's not in my quotes, but basically it's like, when when you wake up, people will plot against you. They'll try to take you down. They'll lie to you. They'll deceive you. They'll try and ruin your reputation, etc. But we get up anyway. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's
like, so what?
Yeah, so what? It is what it is. Right? It is what it is, and we get on with it anyway because you sort of got to be the bearer of that, you know. So it's like, what's that? But you know, I would assume Johnny Knoxville's not going through any bad without a reason or without a purpose, you know. And so like, what's on the other side of that bad that's making it worth it, or why?
Yeah, another way to I guess look at it is like, no matter what you do, right? Like we tend to hope that the best happens, right? We date someone, we hope it ends well. We have a child, we hope they grow up and do well. We go for a job application, we hope we get the job. Like we hope for the best, but at the same time, you got to be acceptant that there's going to be punches along the way. Not every relationship's perfect. Not every child is going to grow up and do everything you want them to do. Not every job interview or job that you go and work for is going to turn out the way you hope for. I think it's important in business and in life to go, okay, like best case scenario, this can happen. Worst case scenario, this can happen. But let's not fixate on the bad. Maybe the good could happen. But if it doesn't, cool, let's just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think if you can have that spirit as an entrepreneur, oftentimes like you get more luck. Things kind of go your way sometimes. And if you spend too much time spiraling about like what could go wrong, it just slows everything down.
Well, it's a really good point because, a lot of people get super fixated and they give a lot of energy to the negative and then not as much energy to the positive, you know? It's like, of course, like it could be good, but what about all these bad things? That I'm like, you know, if you're measuring those up in terms of like how good it could go and in terms of how bad it could go, it doesn't make sense that you worship the negative much more than the positive. Like you got to weight them, right? And so, like, for example, for me, I'm trying to build $1 billion business. So $1 billion business in light of I have a few staff leave or I've got to do a bit of extra work or I've got to do a bit of something. Here's the negative. Here's the positive. So it's like where you want to put your energy and your perspective. You know, you got to put it on. If you're gonna take into consideration the negativity or the negatives and let those, you know, punch out, you got to take into consideration the equal weighting of like whatever that positive is. And if it's not evenly weighted, you're like, oh, I'm going through all of this trauma and all these problems for like, you know, $1 off a Happy Meal or something. It's not going to be worth it. It's not going to be weighted. So, I think that's a...
Yeah, and yesterday I had a conversation with someone, and this individual is very wealthy. You know, we're talking close to $1 billion.
That's nice.
And we're on a phone. Yeah, we're on a phone call. That's nice. I wish I had that. But we're on a phone call, and they were asking me about like content creation.
Okay.
And you know, he was asking me like, hey, like, why do you have a full-time team for content creation? And I was like, well, you know, I can give you 1,000 reasons.
Someone's never created content.
Yeah, but he's like, why not just get a freelancer, or why not just do it yourself, or this or that? And I was like, look, at the end of the day, I was like, what are you scared of if you hire someone full-time? And he goes, well, they might come to my house and waste my time, and we might make all this content that doesn't do well. And I was like, but what if it went great? And he's like, yeah, but most likely it won't. And I was like, but what if it went great? And he goes, He goes, tell me more. And I said, what about if you just really worked on it and you hired someone that was terrible, you learned from that experience, you hire someone else who's terrible, you learn from that experience, and then the third person you get is a game changer, you go to 1 million followers. He's like, huh. And I was like, just start the journey. He goes, I'm going to do that. So the point I'm getting at here is sometimes we can just, our perspective could be just fixated on, well, what if this goes wrong? And this is someone who's had a lot of success. I don't think anyone's devoid of getting caught in this mindset. I think we all as human beings can fall back into this trap.
100%. Yeah, going down that crevice of like a carved out thought pattern of whatever has been before, you know. Yeah. Great segue into this one, which is the threat of attack is often greater than the attack itself. So the threat of attack is often greater than the attack itself. Simple and blunt, but I think perfect segue into that. What I take from that, you know, because there's been so many times like in life where there has been like an insurmountable amount of like adversities happening at once, you know, whether it be when we're young and, you know, we're going through that time of actually becoming bankrupt and all these things are mounting and changing every day and it's sort of mounting on you and everything's quickly, rapidly changing. Or even like in jail, there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. For example, like my dad was sick and I couldn't control it. I'm stuck in jail. You sort of just got to wait and all these things. And literally that quote literally embodies the mentality of how you sort of dissect and dissolve it right there. It's like the threat of attack, the thing that you're concerned about, the actual thing that you're stressing about or thinking about is much far greater than the actual impact it's going to have on you. the actual impact it's going to have. And if you reflect back on so many times, it's like one of my early on mentors used to say this thing to me all the time. He's like, you've got 100% success rate for getting through shit that you didn't know how to get through. You're like, I didn't know I was going to get through it, but you're here today, which means you've got a 100% success rate for that, right? And so the threat of attack, like the thing that you're scared of, that little mounting hurdle, is often much bigger. It's like people saying make a mountain out of a molehill. Like, I think same thing, right? It's like as you keep like stressing about, or the thing that you're stressing about, that looming threat that's on the horizon but not quite here yet, and you're trying to stay away from, it becomes much more painful. Or even like in the sauna or in the gym, you're trying to edge away from that pain, it becomes so much more painful. Whereas you lean into the solution, you're like, it dissolves down to its actual form, which is much more diluted.
Yeah, and it affects people in so many ways. Like, for example, if there's a threat and, whether it be a threat in your business or a threat in your relationship or a threat, like someone's like threatening to hurt you or what have you, right? Like the threat itself, like why is it so physiological and why is it so negative? And I think it hits in many ways, right? Because when you think of a threat, you think about fight or flight. And you're like, do I fight this or do I run away from this? And then there's a sense of like the agony of thinking about it. And the agony of feeling what it would feel like when it happens. And it typically isn't a moment. It's typically ongoing. It's anxiety, it's stress, all the rest of it. It's like a
continuum.
It's like self-torture in some aspects. But then the event takes place and then you dust yourself off. And you're like, that was it. It's over. Yeah. So, and I found this, like, if you're trying to G up for a tough conversation, you're like, fuck, this conversation's going to be so brutal and that person's going to react and I'm going to make him feel bad. Then I'm going to feel bad. There might be tears. They might, what have you. Then you have the conversation and they're like, okay.
Yeah, you're still stressing about it and it's over. You're like, oh, God, still having anxiety.
Like, so much of life is like that.
So good to meet you.
Yeah, we overthink, we over-scare ourselves, we over-stress, and I think business, you just don't have time for that, man. No. You don't have time to sit with threats. You got to move. You got to take action. You got to get through it.
Yeah, I think that is this like the nice sobering reality of business, and what I actually like is like we've got the filter for the most shit, like obviously, but it's until it gets to me, it's not shit. It's a bullshit threat that we don't have to pay attention about, and then until it reaches this critical mass point, then you need to sort of handle it, and it's like this constant dance between being proactive, but also letting them form out because of that. Sometimes they're looming and becoming bigger than they actually are in your mind. So
nailed it, man.
Journey.
Nailed it. And so that leads me to another quote a friend shared with me once. And we were catching up for coffee. And this is going back when I was just working full time. And this guy ran a vacuum store. His name was Henry. We caught up for lunch. And I just liked this dude's energy. Funny guy, tons of charisma, and I was just like, who is this dude? I just want to work for him. And I just remember, like, this guy runs a vacuum store, and I was like fucking pumped to work for this dude.
Let's get it.
And I was selling insurance at the time. He's like, man, screw insurance. You need to come sell vacuums. I'm like, this guy fucking loves vacuums, dude. So shout out to Henry Klibbe. Anyways, we caught up for coffee, and he shared a quote with me, and he's like, I live my whole life by this quote, Dain. And this was the quote that Henry shared. He goes, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of that which you want, and you cannot help but have it. This is not theory, this is physics. And that quote was from Albert Einstein. I'll just repeat the quote. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of that which you want, and you cannot help but have it. This is not theory, this is physics. And he said this to me, and I was like, okay, but every time I read that quote or I listen to that quote, it hits me different. And this is what I mean. It depends on the mood I read it in, depends on what's going on in my life, and I read it.
Frequency.
Because everything is energy. Everything. Like us here vibing out, hanging out is energy. You go back to work today, energy. You go on a date tonight, energy. You dress up in this outfit, that's energy. Like everything is energy. And he's saying, and Albert Einstein is saying this, is like, if you think about in your life people that love drama. Do you know someone who loves drama? And they just constantly find themselves in drama. And you're like, how does this person attract this much drama? And I'm sure everyone listening to this knows someone who's just like always in an argument, always having to fight. Their life's always melting down. You're like, what is it? And it's like they're attuned to that frequency.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right? And, when I was a child and I was growing up in and out of low socioeconomic areas, there's a frequency. You go into rich suburbs, there's a frequency.
Yeah.
You walk into a high performance workplace, there's a frequency. You walk into a low performance workplace, there's a frequency.
Another frequency. Yeah.
And what I think I learned in that moment was like this dude who's selling vacuums was pumped. And this dude built one of the most successful vacuum collection of businesses in Australia. But he was just pumped. And I would watch this guy sell vacuums with so much fucking energy that everyone would just throw their credit cards at him. And I think if you can tune in to the future that you want and feel it now, it weirdly starts to pull the right people into your orbit, and it seemingly just starts to shift your life. And that day, that quote, I believe genuinely that shifted the entire direction of my life.
Bro, 1000%. What you actually uncovered there is like the actual secret to my entire life. People always say, how'd you? And I tell them one thing. And it's like, write down what you want and visualize it as much as you can. It depends on how far they are in their journey to how much like I'd give them the information on like why that is. But basically, by you thinking about it, visualizing it, putting yourself there, you're changing your frequency. You're manipulating your frequency to be that, not the one that you're in. And your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and a thought.
True.
Yeah. So like boxers, they do it like you shadow box in your mind. Right, and
yeah, because you're a boxer.
Brain doesn't know the difference, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting those mental
pause
reps.
on that. Like, describe shadow boxing and the psychology behind it, because I never understood it.
It's literally visualizing your opponent there and what they would do. So it's like, okay, he would throw the jab, I'll catch it, bang, catch, boom, and I do the movements.
So you're going through.
I'm going through the movements.
You're moving
here
your body.
It comes, boom, bang, 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 and then no, it didn't like that. Do it again, boom, and you sort of that's what that is, you know. Some people do it like a bit like, oh God, can't wait till this is over. Like, and definitely been guilty of it. You know, when you're tired and your trainer's like, all right, now go do fucking 6 rounds of shadow. And you're like, oh God, am I, you know, does it look like, you know, am I practicing? No, but when you're truly practicing is that you're visualizing like your opponent across from you and what they would be doing and you're responding, you know. But then you can take that away, take the shadow boxing away and just think about boxing. And it has almost the same effect on your brain, apparently. Probably cross-check, probably wrong.
Well, I saw something
but
where...
I believe it. So it's worked for me, but being able to constantly craft and do that, it's every single thing I've written down has always come to be, every single thing. Like, and that's the other book, you know. And so by changing that frequency, I fully believe like that, the universe sort of turns into water and just moves around you. You're just like, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing, here's the frequency, and I'm just going to keep doing, showing up every day. Like visualizing it's like an integral part of my week and day, you know. Think about the goals and where we're heading, let's think about them. And what's that going to be like? And what are the challenges, you know, and things like that. And then it sort of just moves in that direction naturally, you know, 100%. Like that's been my full experience.
Yeah, and it's like the concept that like steam, water, and ice are the same thing.
You said this last time.
Yeah,
rock my world last time.
Steam, water, and ice are the same thing at different frequencies. If you change your frequency, you'll surround yourself with the thing you want. And the shadow boxing thing is interesting. It reminds me of like, I saw this thing and my stepdad told me about this when I was a kid, but like Bruce Lee, when he broke his back, he was in hospital for 6 months, which meant he couldn't do his daily training. And what Bruce Lee would do at that time is he would visualize his daily routine and he strapped himself to like, what do you call those machines where they like track your, what do you call it? Like your electricals and your vitals.
Okay.
And
like a BMI thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like he strapped himself to this device and they calculated that his muscle development was 70% to the 100% that was his training by him imagining his routine. So by him laying in the bed with a broken back, visualizing his routine for 6 months, he was able to retain 70% of his muscle mass.
I can't do that. Just training, you know. Like, that's
shadow training.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is amazing. See, further proof or iteration of the point. All right. So, what's done in the dark will be shown in the light.
Ooh,
love that one because it's that's been another one of like my experience. You know, there's that. I think everyone has those like internal dialogues, and you've got those experiences, and you got there's a massive part of your life where it's just you. You only really know the full details, the full complexities of everything, positive, negative, and all that. And I think, what's done in the dark will always be shown in the light. Has been something that's always been true for me, seeing other people, like all that sort of stuff in so many different circumstances. But I think where it really resonates for me is like when you see, I guess, well, for me, it's like what you haven't done, you always come up short and you know what you haven't done. You know, you know what you haven't done. When you come time to it, you come time for the performance, the event, the whatever it is. I liken this to one of my friends. You know, he's a boxer. He's a professional boxer. But we actually talked about this quote before. Colin, shout out to Colin. And so when we go, when you come closer up to fight night, you know the work you haven't done, or that you have. You know, because it's going to come out and show in the light. And same, I guess, same has been my experience coming fresh out of jail was a good one.
Right.
Because no one knew what I was doing in there. Everyone thought, who knows, he's just fucking, I don't know what the fuck they think.
He's doing jail shit.
Just doing jail shit. Yeah, just being a criminal, getting worse, right? I was reading and training.
Right.
Just that's all I was doing.
You weren't getting
and when
up
I got
to-
out, that was super apparent. You know, it was super apparent. I was switched on, I was fit as fiddle, and I was fucking sharp.
So I understand, like, so take me into the psyche of you're in jail. I heard this terminology that there's like a phrase for your daily routine.
Oh, like muster.
No, there's like a concept that, at least in the US, that they have in prisons, where it's like you have your playbook, or you have like.
No, we don't really refer. We don't
What do you
have like.
what do you refer to your day's schedule as?
Oh, I just would call it that. I literally used to run the same like rhythm that I would have at work. Like
Right.
I would have a to-do list.
So even though you're in prison, you're like,
goals.
I'm going to have a scheduled day.
Yeah, nothing changed for me in that sort of way. Obviously, the to-do items changed. We weren't doing pre-approvals and property acquisitions anymore. It was literally, we're going to do chin-ups, and we're going to call Mum, and then we're going to call Joey, and then we're going to do more chin-ups. And we're going to read, and that's pretty much it. But by having that structure, it gave me like a sense of forward accomplishment. Like I would be like, tick, another day in the fucking books where I killed it. Congratulations, good on you. Go to bed. I'm in maximum security prison full of fucking derelicts, but I was like, yeah, sweet, we're winning. You know, we're winning. And that helped me massively, because it helped in a few ways. Like, it helped with my training, for sure. I got more and more confident, and I was training and sparring people, so that was important. Like, you know, so maintaining that confidence. But the thing I noticed when I came out of jail was I had like that unshakable confidence.
Right.
And that was because, firstly, I spent all this time alone. It was all by myself. All the achievements were self-motivated. There was no external validation. I had to validate myself, right? And it was all... I would fail and succeed on my own. You know, I would wake up and either try the day, fucking not do it, and go home and fucking lick your own wounds.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's almost like if you're in prison, like you're doing this routine every day, then you get out and everyone's like, why the fuck is this guy so confident? He's reading books,
and
pumping
it's such a good experience, because sometimes you'd be like, you know what, like, oh fuck, and you'd let yourself slip for a day. Then the next day, they'll lock you in for 4 days. So you missed opportunity now. And so it was such a good teacher in that sort of way. It's like, well, you know, because you only have today. And so how do you want to show up today if you die at the end of the day? How do you want to show up today? Like, how do you want to be? And so that was always good, because it was like a constant refresh. Every day was a new day. You still had this thing looming in the background, but also you had to appreciate the moment. And also you had to learn all these lessons just to win and fall on your own. And also there's no like rhythm set for you. Actually, it's all taken off you. There's no like default. Actually, you're forced to just sit in the room and be by yourself, basically.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, fuck that. We're going to get a rhythm, right? We're going to get a rhythm. We're going to work towards something. And what I'm working towards is like being a world champion. Whether I was going to be a world champion or not was beside the point. It was more important that I had like a goal in there to work towards. So every day, just grinding the fucking pumiston, as you said, like grinding the pavement, just pumping it, just doing something, learning, reading, boxing, sparring, something, like just something, moving the needle a little bit, you know, even if it was like whatever you could, it just gives you that sense of control over it, you know? And so that always rang true for me, because, yeah, what's done in the dark, it's going to get shown in the light. It's always going to come about, and it's going to be able to see it at some point. You're going to have the spotlight on you. And so when that happens, what do you want everyone to see? That you're being a little bitch?
Yeah.
Or that you fucking were doing it, you know? Yeah.
I love that quote. Like, yeah, what's done in the dark will be seen in the light. And, you know, I think this is like, you know, when you're building a business, we tend to seek for immediate validation.
Oh, yeah.
And I have this conversation so frequently where someone comes to me and they go, Dain, I want to talk to you about branding. Can you have a look at my business? We look at their business. We come up with an idea about how we can support them. They're like, I'm going to go talk to my friend about this. Oh, cool. What does your friend do? Oh, he's a truck driver.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect. Have they built a business before? No, but I really care about their opinion. I'm like, why? Like,
how come?
But naturally, human beings tend to want to validate before they go and do the work in the dark. It's like, if you're in the dark, at the end of the day, your friend that's a truck driver is not there to help you. What do you want to do?
100%.
You know, but we're tribal creatures, and I get it. But I think if you're trying to separate yourself from the pack and you're trying to become a killer in business, you have to start thinking about what I do in the dark matters. When I'm alone matters. No one's here to save me. I'm on my own. I got to sort this out. Which reminds me of another quote, and that's, I believe this is from, I can't remember the name of the individual, but this is a Spartan quote from ancient Greece, and that's, sweat more in training means you'll bleed less in battle. Yeah. For me, when I read that was when I was first hitting the gym. And you know, when you're like going through your phone, you're like, yeah, I need some gym motivation. Yeah. And I think I downloaded like a pumped up like R&B/hip hop aggressive rap playlist. And that was like the quote. And I was like, yeah. You know, so I think if you're trying to do big shit as an entrepreneur, as a boxer or whatever it is you're trying to do, I think it's like, well, you know, are you training? When the moment comes and the investor's ready to invest with you, or the employee is ready to start in your business, or the customer's ready to buy from you, have you put in the time? Have you done your reps? Have you done your training? Are you ready for the opportunity? Because that opportunity is not always going to be there. Tomorrow it could be gone.
It's going to be gone for sure. Yeah, that is such a good like segue on. So bleed more. So what was it again? So
sweat more in training.
Sweat more in training. Bleed less in
battle.
Bleed less in battle. Yeah, exactly. So literally just doing the work that no one's going to validate you for, I guess, in business. Just like you say, everyone's always chasing that immediate validation. They always want to look like, you always want to look like you're running a business, right? Everyone's always leaning towards wanting to do that. But just like you're saying, like, are you doing the reps? Are you doing the work that's going to get you to position to, like, for us, it's like there's so much unpacking. There's so much that you can't measure in terms of our success. Like what we do a lot is we change a lot of belief systems, right? And so when I'm speaking to clients on the phone, you can always be transactional. And this is where I've had issues with staff so much in the past, is because like I've done what I was meant to do. And it's like, yeah, by the book, you technically said the words, right? Right. Sitting across from someone that needs a little bit of extra TLC, there's no measure on that. There's no extra word I can give you to say, hey, this is how you care for a client, and make sure they actually understand and do that work. And for us, so much of our client, I guess our success comes from clients actually taking the leap. And so having to do that is helping them change their beliefs and believe more in themselves. And so have you, like, for us, it's a bit more of a softer spin on it, but it's like, have you taken the time to do the actual best that you can, to put your hat in the race, to actually get the thing that you're hoping to get for, or have you just fucking showed up to training and attended?
Yeah. Well, it's like people that are like, I'm scared to do public speaking.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, have you ever sat in a room by yourself and spoke? No.
Oh.
Have you ever written like a script for a keynote? Nope. Have you ever theorized what your topic might be? No, but I want to be a keynote speaker. Start writing content.
Start by doing what keynote speakers do.
Start speaking to a mirror. Like, and it's like, do the training. Like, if you want to be a thing, do it. And I hear this all the time. People are like, I want to be a content creator. Do you make content? No. Well, how are you going to be a content creator if you don't make content? And it's like, well, I want to make sure when I start posting the content that it goes viral. I'm like, well, how about you just do the reps?
Like, this is solid gold.
Yeah. But I'm scared. Well, just don't even post it. Just film it. Like, and then who's going to see it? You? Start there.
God
like,
forbid.
I think
Just
sometimes,
start, right?
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes people are just so fixated on the best outcome, they don't even start the first step.
Yeah, so true. Don't give yourself opportunity to like fumble it a bit and figure it out and just go, you know what, fuck it. This is what I want to do. And this is the best opportunity I have right now.
Yeah.
And you go and you sort of just tumbleweed your way there. Like, yeah, so much to be said about that.
I got one I think you're going to like. If you never change your mind, why have one?
Yeah, dipshit.
If you never change your mind, why have one? And that's from Edward de Bono.
Oh,
I love this quote. When I first read this, I think this is like 4 years ago when I was reading his book. I remember just sitting down and laughing for like a good 10 minutes. It's like, if you never change your mind, why have one, right? And it's like, he's so Edward de Bono, he's like a corporate business kind of like strategist.
okay.
And he specializes, and he wrote some books. One's called Six Hat Thinking. Another one's called Lateral Thinking. And he was obsessed with thinking. And he found that the biggest issue in companies were CEOs that spoke too much, listened to their teams too little, and never were able to adjust their minds. Because he said in order to grow a company, you need to constantly evolve your minds, adapt, change, do away with old ways of thinking and adopt new ways of thinking. And if you struggle to think, hire people who can think for you. And this quote, if you never change your mind, why have one? The point is like, is your mind fixed, full stop, or are you growing? There's no way to plateau a great mind.
What was the quote again?
If you never change your mind, why have one?
Yeah. It's like that, a quote come to mind. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. But it's like people who don't read have no advantage over people who can't.
People who don't read have no advantage over those who can't.
Yeah, exactly.
That's powerful because it's like, well, why have a mind?
Yeah, exactly. Why have a mind if you can't change one? And I think, yeah, like adapt or die. Like literally that is it in business, right? And I think you've got to have something fixated. Like, and I've learned this in my, small business journey so far, is that, you need to be like sturdy and stern with the vision, but super flexible on the details, right? It's like Aboriginal people being successful. You can pick one thing to be stern about. That's it. How we get there, I don't give a shit. I've got the quote to segue into this. All truth goes through 3 phases. First, it is ridiculed. Then it is violently opposed. Then it is accepted as self-evident.
Who said that?
I can't fucking remember. I got it out of
We'll find out. We'll put it in
I
chat.
got it out of a book.
Can you read
though.
it again?
Yeah. All truth goes through 3 phases. First, it is ridiculed. Then it is violently opposed. Then it is accepted as self-evident.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where did you see that and what did you take from it?
In a book. What did I take from that? I was like, they'll fucking see.
Yeah, you're like, that juices me up, man.
Yeah. Ridiculed and violently opposed is like where we've been.
Yeah.
And soon we'll get to the accepted as self-evident. No, but I think it's always shown to be true in like little facets of myself.
Right.
It's like even say beliefs that I had about myself, maybe that I was good at something or that I was able to be great at this or whatever it is. And at first it was like, you Brad, this Brad that we know, of course not, never.
Yeah, prison
no
Brad.
Yeah. What the fuck? And then over
like,
time.
look at me now, bitch.
As an example, it was boxing. Well, at first it was boxing. I was like,
Right.
I'm gonna go be a boxer. And they're like, smart fucking Brad can spell every word. No, mate, you're a nerd, mate. What are you gonna be?
Yeah, what are you doing putting those
Fuck,
gloves
come on,
on?
wake up yourself. And then I started boxing and started doing it. It was like, oh, okay, now this guy's like boxing. And then kids would try to beat me up. And then I beat them up and they go, okay, now this kid's just not someone to be fucked with, right? And that was just like a early stage of it. Indigenous wealth was such a good example of it because I could see it so clearly. And I was like, this was something where I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to fucking die about this because I can see it so clearly and I'm just going to try. And I'm just like, because I can just see it so clearly. And at first, people are like, yeah, Aboriginal people even have money and jobs and shit. Like, and I still get some of that bullshit today. And I'm not sure where the violently opposed sort of comes in. It's a bit softer in business, but now it's like, oh, of course, like we need an Indigenous wealth. Of course it makes sense, right? Whereas like at first it was like, well, why does it need to be separate? Or why would it even exist? Or why does this happen? Why does that happen? Why fucking everything, But now it just seems to be like just accepted. It's like, it is what it is. And I think that's so true with like everything. You just got to get through that inertia period. Because if you believe something, I've thought about this of every thought, every idea or everything. We live in a world based off other people's ideas, right? It's like it all started from somewhere. And at some point, someone had to believe more than the other people. And obviously there would have to be, based on their opinions or how much power the person would have at the time, is like that's going to dictate like what their experience with other people are. But for sure, you've the person with a belief and you've got a vision and you now are obliged with the duty of making it happen. And by making it happen, then you make all this benefit. If it's not like such benefit, like it just won't work, but it has to be that way. Like it has to be that way, And so it's a lonely sport, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah, that quote reminds me of when I first started posting content on Instagram. And I was on my front driveway. I took a photo of myself in front of the garage, and I made my first carousel. It was like a photo of me, and you could swipe through and you could read it. And I remember going to work after posting these for a few days, and I was working at Telstra selling phones. And this girl, her name was Maggie, comes up to me and she's like, "Hey Dain, what's the deal with your Instagram?" And I was like, "Hey Maggie,
What do you mean?
What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, I don't get it." I was like, "Oh, I'm just teaching like marketing and mindset tactics." And she's like, huh. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, this is like the first moment of friction I had posting content. I was like, oh, that doesn't feel great. And then I sat with that for half a day and I was like, oh, what is the deal with my Instagram? You know, and like started to play on me like kind of like a virus. And I was like, no, fuck that. I'm going to keep doing it. I kept posting content. And then a couple of days later, the team that were like back at house and my manager were in the back room. And her name was Jody. Shout out to Jody. She said to my manager, yeah, he thinks he's Tony Robbins or something, you know, like he thinks he's some kind of guru or something. And they caught me in the back room and I was like, oh, friction again. Like this judgment will show up. The second you start doing you start doing the thing that you want to do, this shit will show up and you have a choice.
Guaranteed, bro.
Do you want to go through the 3 phases or do you want to quit now? Now it's fucking self-evident. We got a book. We got a channel. We got a podcast.
Hey, fuck you, man.
Shout out Maggie. Shout out Jody. Big love to you guys. Yeah, and you know, I think when it comes down to it, like sometimes you have to be willing to accept that's the case.
Yeah, 100%. No, you absolutely must. You absolutely must. It's a perfect segue into this, right? All men have fears, but the brave put down their fears and go forward, sometimes to death, but always to victory. Is that sick?
Sometimes to death.
But always to victory,
yeah.
Right? I'm not sure what the sometimes to death exactly translate. I know in business it's like you're probably going to lose yourself.
Well, sometimes you could lose your business.
Yeah.
Right? And then you could be victorious in another business.
Yeah, you can be victorious in the way that like you take the lessons with you.
Yeah.
You take all those things that serve you, and so then the next business might be much easier. But yeah, like it's going to cost you more than what you think, right? But the brave put down those fears anyway and you go forward and you will get what it is that you came for. Maybe not in the way.
Well, yeah, I think like look at most business owners, right? Like if you look at all the greats, you know, they usually failed a couple times.
Yeah.
But it's like those failures, those deaths of their initial businesses, as tough and as sad and as brutal as that might have been, the skills and the lessons that they picked up during those business periods are the reason that their second or 14th idea had the trajectory it did, is because they had the acumen, they had a lesson, they had something they applied. And if you come back to everything is energy thing, it's like the energy that they learned, the second they're like, oh, this is like something that happened in my last business, I'm going to stay the fuck away from a financial problem or a P&L crisis in my life ever again. Let me hire a bookkeeper earlier than I would have originally. Like things like this can be the victories.
I understand the board a bit better, right?
Yeah.
You know, I always liken like business to like chess. You know, it's like once you only by playing will you learn, only by losing your pieces will you figure out like what the mistakes are, and then on your next game you can figure out how to readjust, right? So it's like just a continuum of like learnings and strategy. But yeah, all right.
You're going to like this one. So my business mentor and I were having a conversation last night, and I found this quote yesterday, and he was telling me about a guy named Peter Drucker, and I was like, who's Peter Drucker? He's like, oh, he's this really cool guy who kind of wrote the rule book on being a CEO, business executive. Right. I was like, okay, cool. So I started diving into this guy's content, and he had this quote, and it just fucking rattled me, and I was like, this is so good. This is the quote. The best way to predict the future is to create it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah, I got that somewhere in there. That's such a good one.
It's a good one, man, because I was like, I've never heard that before. It's like the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I said this today to a client in a prospective call, and the client was like, yeah, we want to build a business and we're trying to like exit this other company. And you know, we don't want to steal the clients, but we're like nervous because we want to get new clients and we think we could do it, but we're a little bit nervous. We want to build a brand for it. And they're kind of like in this like limbo of heads, like they're in this limbo of mindset where they're like, we want to leave this other company, go and do this thing for ourselves, but I'm kind of between worlds. And I said to them, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, what future do you want? He's like, well, I want the business to be really successful. And I was like, well, cool. What's the plan? I don't have one. Cool. Well, let's come up with a plan together. And he's like, I'm in. How much? Like it was such perfect timing. But the point is, like, when it comes down to building a business, it's like, decide what you want. That's the only way to predict the future, is just to make the fucking decision. Yeah. And then go create it.
Exactly, yeah, and that's all you can sort of bank on. Because I fully believe, like, if you wouldn't have this internal belief of it, like you've got those two beliefs, you got these two like sort of, you know, people refer to them as wolves and all these things. You got
I
these
like the inner voice.
Yeah,
like
you got
the
these two
inner bitch.
voices. One's like, go forward, get what you want, you know what it is, let's go. The other one's like, yeah, but, you know, a bit scary. Like, what about this soft, like, little lounge, just kick back for a bit, you know?
Do your two voices have like different tones?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do they both sound like?
One's like, fucking, let's get it. You
Fucking
know?
let's get
The
it.
other one's like, oh, good. You know, that little pussy.
What's a little bitch?
Yeah.
The other
So
one's like, come on, mate.
It's easy to,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's easy to put it on the other one, you know? It's like, who's that squeaking?
Yeah, which voice are you listening to?
Oh, just the
inner
stern,
bitch?
stern one all the time, yeah.
Yeah, listen to the stern guy.
Yeah,
Or gal.
you go through periods actually. You go through little periods of like who's got center stage. You know, you're like, oh, I'm feeling it. Like it's tough to get into that zone sometimes. Whereas sometimes I'm just like 2-minute cold shower, and you get to 2 minutes, and you're like, we're doing 3. You know, you're like, what is going on? You know?
Yeah, the inner bitch is like, please stop.
Please, get,
Yeah, and the other one's like, how hard
stay
can
in
we
your
go?
fucking cage.
Yeah,
Don't
I
talk.
do that one in the sauna. You know, like I'll be in the sauna and I'll go to like
Another
one of
10.
those float pods.
Yeah.
And you put it up to like, you're like, all right, 58 degrees. And then you have a little voice inside. It's like, what do you reckon you could do 68?
Let's
And I'm
go,
like,
bitch.
fucking let's
Yeah.
go. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're at 68. What about 69? You're like, you know,
let's-
keep punching that dial.
Let's get it. Smoke alarms start going off. So true. No, but there's so much to be gained from like that. The more you lean into it, the more you lean into the thing that you're like fearful of, I've found, is it's where all the juice is. Like it's actually where all the good stuff is. Like there's that book from Ryan Holiday. It's like the obstacle is the way. That's all I need. That is literally it. That is the whole embodiment of it. The obstacle is literally the way. Like all the progress that you're hoping to make, it lies in that obstacle.
Yeah.
Everything else is just
I got that on
forward.
my arm, by the way.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah. The
You're
obstacle
fucking
is
kidding.
the way.
I read it. That's what I'm on post right here.
No, but it means a lot, man. It's like
That's fucking amazing.
the thing that terrifies you or the thing that's stopping you. You know, it's like, oh, I want to do this thing, but my parents won't let me, or
That's-
my partner.
there's your solution,
or,
right
you
there.
know, I don't have the money or I don't have the time. It's like you need to attack. If you don't have time, you need to attack that.
Tack time.
Get
Yeah.
time. I don't have money. Get money.
Get money. Yeah.
I don't have people or contacts. Get some.
Get them. Yeah.
Like the obstacle is the thing you need to do. Saying you don't have it is just a fucking excuse.
It's just an opportunity. You go,
Yeah.
well, there's your gap. There you go, brother. Off you go. Yeah.
Because you can have 1,000 excuses or just one reason to do it.
Mm.
Well, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have this. Well, go get some.
Yeah.
But I can't because well, go get that. But I can't because do the thing that you just go down those layers until you hit bedrock. And you're like, okay, let's just fucking start there with that little tiny thing. When it comes to like the best way to predict the future is to create it. It's like decide what you want and write it down and then go build it.
Yeah.
Because I saw Chris Williamson. I don't know if you watch Modern Wisdom.
Yeah.
He had this. I don't know. I don't fully remember this, and I might bastardize this. Sorry, Cam. But he was saying like, have you ever thought this thought where like maybe the things that you want, like you want a nice car, you want a nice house. He's like, why do you want those things? Maybe the future you already has them, and that's the reason why you want them. And I was like, whoa. Like maybe the things you want, you have them in the future, right? Hypothetically, which begs the question. It's like, well, can you predict the future? Well, you can if you build it.
It's like that quote, right? It's like it was written, you know?
Yeah.
Like it was written. Like, doesn't it feel like that sometimes? Like you've got these ambitions and these quotes.
Like
but I'm
deja vu, where you're like,
yeah,
I meant to do this.
yeah, deja vu and like the whole essence of it. You're like, it just is inevitable. It feels like at times it's such a grunt, it's such a struggle, it's such a like a pushing shit uphill. And then sometimes you're just like, this shit would happen even if I didn't try. You know, and it's like it just feels so carved. It's obviously not going to be true, but like it just feels so naturally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Sometimes it feels like you're in a stream and you're getting pulled downstream, and it's like everything's kind of happening for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, decide your reason.
Yes.
Right? Everything happens for a reason, but what's your reason?
What is it? Yeah. What are you feeling?
Like, what do you get out of bed and do?
you know it. Like, you know it, you know?
Yeah, like if your reason is to create pain and destruction in life, well,
You know
then,
that.
you know, everything happens for a reason. But if your reason is to help people and do good and build cool shit, then everything happens for a reason. But what is your reason?
And you'll see, and you'll be privy to those silver linings. You'll be
Yeah.
like, you're playing, you're on your journey and you're seeing those things marry up and you're like, that continuing from the next one. That little narrative you got in your head is your purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, that's wild. Everything happens for a reason, but what's your reason?
Yeah. What's your reason? Dain.
What's your reason? And you know how people are like, oh, things happen to me for a reason, or this happened for a reason. Well, what the fuck is your reason?
Yeah. All happens for a reason. Like such a powwow statement.
I'm gonna start throwing it at people.
Discard anything. Yeah, what?
Next time someone says that to me, I'm gonna start counting their buts.
There are no mistakes and all that sort of shit. You're like, what is it, but? Like, what is it?
What's the reason though?
That's right.
Dude, next time someone says that to you, everything happens for a reason. You're like, what's your reason?
What is that reason?
And they're gonna be like,
yeah.
What?
So does it then? Does it? No, just like. So
here's a good one for you. The only thing crazier than chasing your goals is expecting people to understand them.
Wow, that's wake up call.
The only thing crazier than chasing your goal is expecting people to understand them. That's from Alex Hormozy.
Nice.
I read this on his social media, I think it was like a week ago, and it like put me in a dizzy spell because I was like, this is so true. Like so many times when we have an idea of our goal, we're like, I wonder what everyone around me thinks about my goal. Like, do they think I can do it? And it's human nature to go, I don't think I can do it. Well, maybe I could do it. Let me go see what other people think. And let me hope and pray that they understand my goals. And expecting people to truly understand your goals is crazy talk.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And it's one thing to have a crazy goal, but it's even crazier to expect people to care about it or understand it or think about it. So I think whatever your goal is, like stop trying to add other people to the equation. If that's your goal, if that's your future, if that's the thing that you want, like go get it, go create it, make it happen.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, when I started producing media and content, it sounded ludicrous. I remember writing down, and this was the goals. Like I remember I used to write this down every day, and I would keep a pen and pad beside my bed. And every night and every morning, I'd write this down. And this is the shit I wrote down. And this is 6 years ago when I was broke, $200,000 debt, had nothing. I used to write down, I'm going to speak on stage in front of 10,000 people. I'm going to build an agency with more than 30 staff. I'm going to write a best-selling book. I'm going to start a podcast and speak to the world, and it's going to be #1 in Australia. I wrote this shit down, and at that time, I felt crazy. I had none of it. I hadn't taken any steps. I hadn't made any progress. Nothing. Like just a dude sitting down, writing down shit he thought was cool. That was it. Full stop. And like, I didn't try to tell anyone about it. I was like, this is the shit I want. I didn't tell my partner. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anyone. I just wrote that shit down. I was like, that's what I'm going to fucking go get. And that's why when I went to the Gary Vee event 6 years ago, and you can read about this in my book, that's why when he said on stage, just go fucking start a business, I was like, okay. But I'd been writing down my goals for 6 months. And I'd been thinking about, okay, these are the goals. These are the things I actually want. Gary Vee just like hit the last little fucking, you know when you're hammering a nail and you just got to hit it in that last little bit?
Tink. Yeah.
He just like tinked it in. But I've been working on burying that nail in my skull for 6 months. So much so that I was like, yep, this is definitely the goals I want. Because when you write down your goals every day, you force yourself to articulate them. Like
they form out.
Yeah, you're like, is it really my goal? Or do I want to, is it 10,000 people or 20,000 people? Like you start to tweak until you're like, no, this is actually what I want.
Oh, they grow. Like you just like that saying, like sleep on it, you know? It's like you got to start the thought pattern. Like I do it with my problems now. Like, cause I'm, big believers, like you just got to chase the void. Like you just need that nothing and like sort of be in your meditative state and the shit will come to you.
Yeah.
When you have problems, like just got to give it space to come to you.
Create space in your mind?
Create space, in your mind. Like for me now, it's like a diary, so I can have space in my mind. So it's like I just have like a block of thinking, you know? Especially Sundays. Sunday afternoon is like, I'm not to be contacted.
So you look at your diary as a block in your mind?
No, not necessarily. No. So I mean, I block out the time for specifically.
Oh, you black out your calendar.
I block out time specifically for having nothing, so that I can get things like coming to me and think about the things like deeply with free thought, and I find they come in the void.
So you create a void so things can show up.
Sorry.
You create a void in your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
So things can show up.
Exactly, because you're always chasing like the solution. You got so many things happening, and they happen rapid fire.
Right, and if you're too busy, you can't catch them.
Yeah, and you also become like too transactional, like become too respondent. You're like you're responding at a skin level.
Right.
You're like, here's a response, here's a response, here's
you're too reactive, you're too high frequency.
Exactly. And so if you give yourself constantly time to just think of the zoomed out big picture and like where we're at, like sort of just think about those things in a free sort of spirited way, the true solutions show themselves, you know, because it takes the pressure off of like the needing to solve it.
That
like
always
now.
happens to me in the shower.
That's what I mean.
Like
So,
I'll be like running around like a fucking like a rabbit all day, just like, oh my God, like meeting,
Exactly.
phone call, email, and it's just like like high frequency, like all day crazy shit. And then I just sit in the shower, I'm like I just get hit with a Godzilla sized idea.
yeah.
When I
See?
stop.
And it's like that's just so much proof for me. Because like when you're like, oh, because what do you do in the shower? Like everyone has those thoughts in the shower.
I just sit down and I'm just
like, oh,
you know?
yeah, you just have like a breath and you're like, oh God, and you like let your brain relax for a second.
Yeah.
And then it's just like solution. Bang, you're like, oh fuck, there it is, perfect. You know? Exactly.
But in the moment you're like, oh well,
Chasing it.
I need yeah, you can't always chase every solution.
Yeah.
Business owners, if you're stuck using one platform for every project, you're probably stuck in a growth bottleneck. More clients means more hires, which just adds noise and cuts into profits. To break the loop, you need flexible tools that don't stretch your resources. Wix Studio is a smart addition to your business toolkit. Intuitive by design, your team can quickly master the platform and focus on the work that matters the most. Then keep up the momentum with a built-in management tool, a unified dashboard, reusable assets, and a Figma plugin that turns static design into launch-ready websites. With robust native business solutions like bookings, e-commerce, and events, you can take any project at any scale without the added cost of third-party plugins. Plus, Wix Studio is a low-maintenance platform, meaning you can redirect the client budget towards real growth initiatives. Think more value for clients, steady income streams, and stronger relationships. To get started, simply go to wix.com/studio.
To realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. To realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation.
Wait, the more I think about it, the heavier it gets.
Yeah. That'll ring. That'll be ringing around your head. I say it all this. I drop it in meetings. I drop it in meetings every now and then. They call you back in a week and go, brother. To realize one. This is in The Alchemist. Great fucking book.
Oh, I've read that book.
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
To
That's
realize
a banger.
To realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. I firmly believe that too, because you got this. You know, you're constantly wading through life. I think that first part, you're building experiences, figuring out who you are, understanding where you're at, and at some point, you're like, this is what I'm going to be, you know, or this is what I am, or this is what I'm going to be, or this is what I want, or something fixates in your mind, whatever it might be. It might not be your whole destiny, but it might be to fulfill, to do, to something. And I believe that that's what you're here to do.
Usually, okay, here's an interesting thought about that. Like, say the quote, and then I'm going to share my thought.
All right. So to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation.
That's so heavy, dude. That immediately makes me think of like, in order to do that, you can't take. You have to give. Like when I was, so Dan Martell was in that chair yesterday.
Okay.
And he said this shit that like sent goosebumps up my spine. He said, I want to die empty.
Ah, sick. Yeah. Leave it
Right?
on the table.
But like back to your quote, which is like, you know, it's about like, okay, to realize your potential, you can't do that by taking. You can only realize your potential by doing, creating, giving, or contributing. Right? Because otherwise, how would you realize it? You can't sit and think about it. You can't take something off someone else.
Yeah.
You have to do the work to realize
You have to provide, create, build. You have to do, like, you need to impart some sort of
it's
value.
It's an expression. It's not a taking.
Yeah, your purchase can't be to consume something or get something.
Yeah,
It's
you
impossible.
can't realize your potential by taking something from someone else, because then you're just taking their potential. What's your potential?
Yeah, what's your gift back to the... Because I fully believe, you know, and it's in the Bible and all these other things, but I fully believe through my own experiences, like, that service to others is the true purpose of life.
I would agree.
Is actually why we're here, I think. And I think, because if that's the only sustainable model, you know?
Okay, but translate that to business. How does one service in order for their business to grow and to be successful?
Yeah, right. Giving, like, it's just 2 ears, 1 mouth, you know, listen more than you speak, like, give more than you take, like, you provide more value than you transact, like, all those things. Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers.
Yeah.
Fucking solid gold at that, right? It's just value stack. Like, just give so much value that that the offer makes sense. And I'm like, that's such a good and tangible way to do business.
It's bulletproof. People are like,
bulletproof.
oh, like that book, like it's good. I'm like, the book's great. Like just stop and think about like the intrinsic exchange of value.
Yeah.
If you can just learn that shit and do that, you win.
That's it. That's what it is. It's like, okay, what would it take for this to be worth it for you? This? Okay, great, let's do that. Okay, great, let's do that. Let's just make it valuable for you. And think about the person that you're actually like serving. Like for us, it's like, oh, Indigenous wealth, we want to help Aboriginal people become successful. It would be completely ignorant for me to go and say, no, you Aboriginal people, that's not what you want. This is what you actually want.
Yeah.
It's so dumb, you know? So you got to, value stack, give, just literally give, like service to others, just give. Like what can you possibly do? And further to your mate's quote here, is that it's like, have you left it all on the table? Have you given everything that you possibly can of yourself today? Yeah.
Will you die empty? Or are you holding on to stuff? And so Cam and I were recently having a conversation to a gentleman. His name's Caleb. Caleb used to work for Gary Vee. Then he worked for Alex Hormozi. And this is kind of the guy behind the scenes, behind the camera, helping produce, helping to co-create with these phenomenal people. And he's very much one of the reasons that Gary Vee's had the success he's had and Hormozi's had the success he's had. And now Caleb is working, I believe, independently. But Cam and I were having a conversation with him. And Caleb asked me the question. He's like, okay, Dain, like when I work with Alex, he's actually thinking about how do I give more? How do I give better? How do I make it? He's like, people can go on the internet and they can find everything that Hormozi teaches. But Hormozi is just trying to make it quicker, easier to understand, and more immediate and free. And he said to me, are you giving everything you can with your content, Dain? I was like, yeah, I'm giving heaps, man. I'm giving away daily reels. We're creating carousels, blah, 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 blah.
Is that everything?
He's like, well, what else are you creating? I'm like, oh, I created this online course. He's like, cool, are you retailing it? I'm like, yeah, I'm selling it. And it's got this and this and this in it. And I lit up and I was like, we're going all in on like teaching these structures and systems and methods. And it's fucking amazing. And it's only $500. He's like, cool, why isn't that free? And why isn't that on your Instagram? And I was like, oh, shit. And he's like, you think your Instagram's valuable? Why isn't it that valuable? And I was like, dude, like, you're 100% right. And I looked at my content and I was like, my content is shit. And I was like, guys, we need to take our online course shit and we need to give it all away for free. And we started doing that, man. We started giving it away on stages. We started giving it away to our community. And it only exponentially increased the revenue the business was generating because we just started giving it away for free. And people were so rocked by it. They were like, let's work together.
Yeah, fuck. Such a good point, man. God, it just got me thinking straight away. And it's like, his quote ran through you, rocked me. I'm thinking about fucking need to call these guys. What can we give away?
But think about it, like, could you give more?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. 100%. Yeah, 100% you could. Because you also like, because there's always this dance in business of like, you know, want to keep your powder dry and make sure, you know, and make sure that it's at the right time and fucking all that sort of shit. But there's just so much to be done, or I guess it's such a true human, in the true human spirit, to just give freely, you know, and your people will find you.
Yeah, because if you're truly in service and it's truly good and you're truly as good as you think you are and you gave it away for free, people should go nuts.
Yeah.
And if they're not going nuts, maybe you need to work on what you're giving.
Self-evaluate, yeah.
Okay, here's another one for you. Average minds discuss events.
Oh, yeah.
Weak minds discuss people. Strong minds discuss ideas.
Oh, I've got a lot to say about this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so growing up where I grew up, I could live through all three of those. I could fucking identify names of people that they can't help it. But you can see the levels and the differences in the energy in the room, the lives that they live, the opportunities that they see, literally the reality they experience from those conversations.
Yeah,
so
what do you talk about?
Yeah, you want to keep yourself at the bottom of that food chain, but start talking about other fucking people. Because guess what? Everyone's going to die, right? Everyone's going to die at some point. And so you talking about them, spending your existence to hypothesize what another person's existence is fucking doing is such a waste of time. It's like talking about hypothesizing what the weather was 3 days ago. Who gives a shit, right? Who gives a fuck, right? No one cares. Talk about ideas, things that are going to actually change and adapt and basically benefit other people's experience, whether it's just your own or the people you care about or some bigger form community.
Yeah.
Ideas at least have the opportunity to change that.
Yeah. Like we could talk about Maggie and Jody and how they said nasty stuff to me.
Yeah, fuck Maggie and fucking, you know.
Yeah. We could talk about that the whole pod. Or we could talk about, hey, what we're up to today.
The idea, yeah.
Or we could talk about ideas, which is like these quotes. And the thing is, what I notice is my quality of life starts My quality of life started to rapidly accelerate and grow when I stopped worrying about what the fuck other people were talking about.
Yeah.
And I stopped worrying about the day's events and the political events and what happened in the news and what happened on social media. I'm like, hang on a second. What ideas do I have and am I building them?
And what other cool ideas are there? You know, and just literally that. Is it just there's no space for like what did this and how do I think about that and fucking all that hypothetical bullshit.
What I noticed is like when I was poor, I used to rant and bitch and moan about people and events. Oh my God, I can't believe the political climate. I can't believe the economy. I can't believe da-da-da-da.
What'd you get more of?
Yeah, and I got more stressed and more frustrated. The second I was like, I got ideas. Let me go build them. And now, like the second I catch myself bitching and moaning about people and events, the second my business starts to slow down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's like, no, go back into your ideas.
Yeah.
Stay focused on your work. Stay focused on what you're great at.
100%. 100%. You know what? Actually, and even like I'll be completely transparent now. Like the last like 2 months in business has been really, really tricky for me because we've had a lot of people issues. I've had a lot of personal issues, as you guys know. I've had a lot of more offshoots of issues from those two things, like several family issues, several people issues internally in the business. We're also rebuilding the business. It's like it doesn't necessarily become a problem, but in light of all these other issues, now the task becomes a problem because it's hard to do and all these other things. So it's all happening all at once. You probably experienced that too.
Yeah,
they all come.
Tends to happen all at once.
Otherwise, it's not challenging. And you're like, sweet. And then for you to actually get challenged, it's like, no, you're learning right now. It's like crunches it all down.
Like start declaring to the universe, I want to be an entrepreneur and just watch everything.
Yeah, and it's like,
you.
okay, let's fucking.
Oh, how bad do you want it? Yeah,
exactly. Immediately. And so the moment I start to take my eye off the ball, as my mentor Adrian always says, is like never be forced off the ball, right? Like never let yourself to be forced off the ball.
I like that quote. Never be forced off the ball.
Never be forced off the ball. It's like stay on it. Just do whatever you can to stay on it because it'll dissipate, it'll minimize, it'll dilute, it'll fucking go off into the threat of attack thing. You know, it'll solve and you will do the best that you can. You know. When you have a problem, what do? You don't like sit and fucking hide for it. That's not the type of person you are. You'll do something about it. But then the problem is like, what do you do after that? Do you keep thinking about it? Do you keep stressing about what it is that you've done? Is that going to come off right? Is that going to work? Is that going to fit?
Right. Release it. You start taking your hands off the ball. You're like, I wonder how the ball's doing today.
Yeah, how's that ball going? Yeah.
You got to check in on that fucking ball. Put your hands on that thing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, who knows where it's going.
And so, so not allowing like those things, because sometimes they're inevitable. You got things that happen with people in your life and all those sort of things. But just understand that they are people, and a lot of the time they're going to come into things that you can't control. You can almost not control other people and how they respond. You can only control your part in it. So not being forced off the ball, knowing that in business, my job is to be at the forefront of the ideas. Yeah, you know, and not be fucking around with the people.
Sorry, I'm just laughing because I remembered a quote, and it's I don't know. Do you know who Dan Pena is?
Yeah, he's off his fucking dial. Yeah. Oh, one of my staff. I'll bring one of his staff in. He went to one of his things. My old staff. Went to his things in Ireland. Went to his house.
Yeah. Dude, Dan Pena is not for the faint-hearted. He's off the rails, but he has this quote. It's pretty funny if you know who he is, and he just says, "If you know snowflakes, quit hanging out with fucking snowflakes."
Yeah.
He's just like, stop hanging out with those people. Like, just stop. Like, if you're around people and they're acting like weak little melted snowflakes, like the second some heat happens, they melt. He's like, stop hanging out.
Stop hanging out with them. Yeah, so true. And fuck, like coming through, speaking it just like as you know, right? Just coming from like shit, basically, is that your job is it's not necessarily like what you can add on or do more of. It's what you can take away. You know, it's like how much of that shit that you've sort of inherited can you take away? For me, it was like people and habits and those like opportunities that were carved out for me. Like I'm going to take those away and put my own version of that on top of that. You know, I don't want to be sitting in a room talking about what everyone's fucking doing, all this chick got pregnant or fucking any of that bullshit. Yeah. I want to be talking about what Elon Musk is talking about. Yeah. Right? I want to be talking
like,
about...
this guy's going to Mars. What am I doing?
How the fuck is he doing that? That's amazing, you know?
Jody said this, you know, like...
Fuck Jody, brother. Is she going to Mars, you know? Like,
she ain't going to Mars.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like the whole snowflake thing, right? Like if you look at your circle of like the people around you that support you, if you look around, your team is like melting the second there's any heat. Like, dude, like you got to get a better team.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Like if people crumble around you, you got to build a team that doesn't.
Yeah, and like this thing I've had to learn as well is like not to give discounts. You know, you got to take people for what they are. not like their potential. It's like he's being a bitch right now.
No one gets discounts.
Yeah, no discounts. It's like he's being a bitch right now, but I'm sure, given better circuit. No,
Give him a couple weeks.
he's being a pussy, bro. As simple as that. Call it for what it is. Make a decision. As is that someone you need to be around or not? Probably not. Get him in the ring, Dain? Just belt. No, I'm joking.
All right, go, dude.
Oh yeah, fuck. Sorry. Tangents. This is going fine. I need to get more of these. Here we go. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. I knew you'd laugh at that. It's true though. No, but hear me out, right? One of my mate has a good one, Colin. He's got a better version of this on his neck, and it's like a more fatty. It's like love of one's fate. That's nicer, right? Mine's like memento
I prefer
mori.
this one.
Yeah, memento mori. Remember, you will die. And so many different parts to that. For me, it's like not taking yourself too seriously sometimes, right? Remember, you're gonna fucking die. Who cares? Well, it might be worth something. It might not. All that really matters is the impact that you're hoping to make right here, right now, not off in some ethos of the universe, right? And also, memento mori. Remember, you will die. You ain't got all this fucking time in the world, bro. You only got today. Remember, you will die. Could be later today. Could be at any given moment. So just take that in your stride.
Yeah, I think to realize your mortality is to realize that things are temporary, right? And it's like, we forget this all the time. Like we get so caught up in our lives that we're like, hang on a second, we're gonna die one day.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I have a nanny, and she's always making fun of me for being old. And it's the coolest thing because if people see her do this to me and they're like, "Whoa, what a bitch," But she's always like, "Oh, you're so old. Like you don't get it. You're not with it." And I love it because I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Dude, you're 34. That's so old." And I'm like, "Is it?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's ancient." I was like, but it reminds me, I'm like, "Yeah, we'll die soon. Like in 10 years, I'll be 44, and then I'll be 50." You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm closer to being old than I am now to being
young.
Being young, right? So then it's like shit. Like just realizing your mortality is powerful. Like I love it because it reminds me like, oh yeah, I got shit to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how people talk about, oh, you gotta be patient, go with the flow,
balance and shit.
Take it easy, you gotta have balance.
Fuck.
Like just to quickly hit on those things, like life isn't to be balanced. Like the planet has seasons, right? The planetary orbit changes. The sun has seasons. So like life is seasonal. Nothing's going to be the way it is now in 10 years. There's no way.
There's nothing.
Your relationships will be different. The people around you will be different. The world will be different. Technology will be different. The food you eat, the way you train, the way you think, the way you exercise, the words you use, the books you read, the shows you watch will all be different. And I think to realize your mortality is to realize that everything is temporary. And if you realize everything is temporary, it takes the pressure off. But it puts the pressure on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Simultaneously.
Right? Simultaneously.
Yeah.
It removes the things that aren't fucking important and it reminds you of the things that are. Takes the pressure off the things that aren't important and puts pressure on things that are important.
Yeah. It's a better alignment. I think it's
a good way to get aligned with yourself is to realize you're gonna die.
Yeah.
That's when you start to focus on the shit that matters.
Yeah. And also everyone else as well. So don't be talking about them. Right?
Yeah. Don't set your goals too low. If you don't need much, you won't become much.
There you go. There you go.
That's Jim Rohn.
It's true because, there's a book, the magic or the power of, I can't remember what it is, but it's like the magic of thinking big or some shit.
Yeah, the magic of thinking big.
Yeah. It's so much truth in that. Like, because firstly, the bottom echelons of what do you call realistic is what everyone believes in, and so thereby it's the most competitive place. The Elon Musks of the world have no competition. There's no one else thinking that big or even daring to, and so I think there's probably less inertia to it. Firstly, the universe will move closer to you, but you got nothing to fucking gain. Who gives a shit? If you only got one life, why would you try and play it safe?
Right.
For who? And for what? Is that so inside you? You're saying if I could have anything, I would want this. I guarantee it's not that. That's the diluted version of what you think is actually possible. And then once you do that and you validate yourself, then you'll probably stretch it to the real goal. It's like, fuck that, scrap that whole thing in the middle and just go with the real goal.
Yes.
Just go with that.
Yeah, and it's like I remember when I'm a huge Jim Rohn guy. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't know who Jim Rohn is,
Yeah.
and
Sales
if you're listening to this, you're like, who the fuck's Jim? Like, look into his shit. It's
Jim
amazing.
Rohn is the man.
He's the GOAT. But yeah, he said, don't set your goals too low. If you don't need much, you won't become much. When I hear this, it just reminds you, like, are you thinking big enough?
You think it big enough?
Right? Because the guy that I was 6 years ago, writing down that shit in my notepad, like it was crazy, it's now all reality. Right? Back to that quote, which is like, how do you predict the future? Well, go create it. I created the future that I wrote down in my notepad.
Yeah.
Right? And if it comes back to your goals, you know what my biggest regret in the last 6 years has been? My notepad wasn't big enough.
Yeah. Not writing down a bigger goal.
I didn't write
right?
bigger. I'm like, shit, I could have wrote down some other shit. Like,
write down anything.
because everything on my list happened. I should have wrote down the Lamborghini.
Fuck
right?
no.
I should have wrote down the beach house. I was
Exactly.
like, fuck. So now I'm going to write down, like, I'm like, oh, make sure the beach house is in there.
Yeah.
But like, I think this is important. Like, not anchoring yourself to big enough goals could be the reason you don't get them.
Yeah, because also it's not like the fruition of the goal, it's like who you become. And if you don't ascribe that to something that you're not already, then where's the growth? You're not going to grow. You're going to do much of the same. And if you haven't already achieved the thing, you're not going to get it. So,
well, it's like looking at the goal and going, okay, like this is the goal, right? Like I want to be on stage in front of 10,000 people. I want to write a book, da-da-da-da. The second question to that is, well, who do I need to become to make that goal happen?
yeah, what does that person need to be like?
Yeah, who's that guy? Who's that girl? What does she say? What does he do? Like it's trying to step into like almost like method acting. You know how there's that quote where it's like fake it till you make it? I don't like that quote, but I get it.
There's an element of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
like
can understand
step
it.
into it
Don't
before
fake
it
but
exists.
Step into it, yeah.
Before it exists, like feel that frequency, think that thought, do that behavior, dress up the way you want to be seen.
Yeah. I remember when I first started like in real estate, bus to the train station, train for 2 hours, another walk was a journey. And I would dress, I remember reading a quote and it's like, dress like you own the place. And I fucking would. I fucking would, you know?
Do you think you own this place?
Fuck no. No.
Oh, come on, man.
No way. This place, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of team here. And like just given the whole team situation as I thought, I'm like,
It sounds like you need to take your own advice, dude.
Too many people, bro.
Next time you come back here, you need to
dress like you own the fucking place.
Yeah, dress like you own this place.
I need a better tie or something. Yeah. Not these socks. No, but absolutely. You know, just like you want to feel that anywhere you go. I guess coming from where I was coming from, that was really important to me because it was like building my belief. Right?
Yeah.
There was no external validation
psyching yourself
to any of
up.
that, but I was like, I'm gonna be the one that fucking owns this place one day. And every day I would do it, and every day I would do it, I would gain more and more internal confidence and momentum. You know, so much to be said about that.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, I think therefore I am. But I think so some men see things as they are and say why. I dream of things that never were and say why not. Right? It's like a further iteration to like your point. But just I think, you know, I've noticed all the quotes that we like, and it's all about what you think of yourself and like how you dream and where your thoughts go, you know, which is, and just even further to this, like exactly on this point as well. But that's where it all happens. That's where it all manifests of like the story you tell yourself. Like, what is that story? How does that come out? What do you want it to be? Want to triumph? Want to defeat? Like, what do you want that thing to go? How do you want that thing to go? Because you get to dictate the whole thing. And then further to that, like your idea, your little idea that you've got, whatever it is, whatever that little thing is, what's the biggest and best and most amazing version of that to you? You know, what's the best iteration of that? And then why not? Why can't that happen? Why is that not possible? Why can you get all these other things that you didn't want to happen, but you can't get that? You know? And so, yeah, it's been interesting because like two guys in business sitting here, like iterative doers, you need to do, you have to do and succeed. And all the things that resonate is like, well, what do you think? You know? And so, yeah.
If you
important to weight it.
Yeah, if you take the phrase "why not," that's a weird phrase. Like, really think about it.
Why not?
There's two ways to unpack that phrase. So, like, if you were to say to someone, let's just say someone was like, "Hey, here's my idea, and it's a little crazy, and I don't think it's realistic," and then you hit them with a "why not." When you in life get hit with the "why not" question, how do you respond? Because you can respond optimistically or you can respond pessimistically. So when you get hit with a "why not," well, I can't do that because of this, this, and this, and these things, and time, and money, and people, and resources, and you know, I don't have the experience, and I don't have the degree, and yada yada yada. Or you can come back to the "why not" and go, yeah, why not?
Yeah, good point,
Like,
actually.
maybe
yeah.
I fucking could go do something different. Like how you respond to "why not" could be the reason that you're not where you want to be right now.
Yeah. Give it space, you know?
Give it space.
Why
Like,
not?
Why
Give
not?
that space. Why not? Like, actually, why not?
But ask yourself why not questions and see how your brain and unconscious mind and your habits and behaviors respond. Because if someone hits you with a why not and your body is like, I don't want to deal with this right now, that's how you're responding to things physiologically.
Pushing it out.
Like, maybe I should go to the gym today. Your body's like, fuck that. You're like, well, why not? Well, because I'm tired and I've had a big week. Or, yeah, you know what?
yeah, good point. Why not?
Why don't I just fucking go? Why don't I just pack my bag and go?
Fucking true. And it's, you know, further to the point, 90% of it's fucking attending. So, like, you got this thought, you got this idea, you got this plan, you got the belief that you fucking want to do it. Now all you got to do is show your ass up at the gym and get there, and you're fucking halfway there.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Like, pack that shit, have it ready, and just go.
Yeah. Yeah, experience is not what happens to a man, it is what a man does with what happens to him.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of times people try to think about experiences like hindsight,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
But it's like, well, what are you doing right now with what you have?
Yeah. How did that translate for you? So, like, with me, like, I guess because there's always been this narrative. I remember, like, when I was young, the first me taking my own sense of self was when I was, like, learning that I was adopted. And then I was learning that that's not normal, right? And I was like, okay, I'm adopted. Obviously, didn't know that was normal, but I didn't know how abnormal it sort of was. Everyone sort of helped me sort of come to terms with that. There would always be this narrative around, like, well, how bad it is. Anyway, the point I make here is that it wasn't until, like, it was only when I believed that that was a negative thing that it actually came to be. As I formed my own opinion of it, I actually believed it was the true source of my independence, and I'm very strongly independent, right? And so, for me, what had happened to me gave me the experience that made me more experienced over others, made me better. So my, like, scars or deficiencies, you'd call them, my strengths, my solid gold parts, you know? And so what happens to you, how you're framing, it's actually a blessing. It's actually truly your blessing. The more unique that experience, the more unique your skill set as a direct result of that. All right. And so what you transmute it into is the determining factor of, well, what does that mean for you? How does that come out in the wash of who you are? All those experiences that happen to you, they're yours. You know, they're yours. They're uniquely yours. Your life is 100% uniquely yours, right? And what that does to you, again, uniquely yours. But how you let that come out in the wash and how you transmute it is entirely your decision.
Can you read the quote again?
Yeah, absolutely. So experience is not what happens to a man. It is what a man does with what happens to him.
Wow, man. Like, you know this, like, age-old phrase where it's like, you know, you deal with the cards that life deals with you, or, you know, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade,
Etc.
etc. I think when I was growing up, you know, and for those listening to this, you might have this rhetoric where, like, well, I couldn't control my childhood. This happened to me, yada, yada. When I stopped looking at life like it happened to me, and I started realizing that life is happening for me, it shifts how things are controlled. If life happens to you, you're not in control. If life happens for you, well, you're in control.
Yeah.
So when I started to feel like I was in control and life was happening for me, and I started looking at the lessons, and I started realizing, okay, all these things that have happened to me gave me this ability to see the world the way I see it, experience the world the way I experience it. Like, my unique perspective is my unique gift. And when I started realizing that the things that were my greatest tests in my childhood were actually my greatest testimonies, which would give me a gift to empathize or connect or see problems differently or find a new route through things. When I started to, I guess, put all this stuff in a blender and, like, make a smoothie out of it and drink it, it was like, well, I can start controlling what I want the way I want it in life, and stop thinking that life is happening to me and it's happening for me. And then when you start to grab life like that and start to realize, well, your future isn't dependent on your experience. It's dependent on like what you have right now and what you invested in. Right? Whatever you have right now, if you have a lot, you have a little, you have a bit, you have some, it's like invested. Like put it forward and realize that you're in control. You're in command. You know, you can either sink, swim, or be the captain, right? Right? So I can like, so this is a quote from Jadena. And this is my last quote. You can either sink, swim, or be the captain. Get the last word. I'm going to get the last laugh in. This is a quote, right? And it's in one of his songs. And when I heard this, you can either sink, swim, or be the captain. You can either sink, you can go down with the ship. You can say my life is...
Swim, save myself.
Yeah, like my life happened to me. It's not my fault. Sink with the ship. You can swim. So you can swim in the problems. Or you can construct your own ship and you can command your life. And life will happen no matter what. But it's how you respond back to it that changes everything. For me, when I think about your quote and this quote, combine them together, building a business, being a parent, working for a team, playing sport, whatever you're doing, just realize that you're in control of everything. And if everything is your fault, if your life is a mess right now and you go, it's all my fault, or it's going great, it's all my fault. When you say to yourself, this is all my fault, you gain the power to do whatever you want with it.
Change things, yeah. Yeah, very true. And I think, yeah, those two do run well into each other. Say your quote again. It's got a two parts to it, right?
Yeah, you can either sink, swim, or be the captain. You might get the last word, but I might get the last laugh in.
Yeah. I like that one. That's the most important part, for sure, getting the last laugh in. No, but absolutely. I think, yeah, you've got, like, you got life. Like, life is just there. It's a continuum. It's a constant. It is there. And then how you respond to it is going to dictate where that goes from there. And so experience, you know, these things happening to you, sink, swim, be the cat. That's talking more to the individual experience that you, like, literally you're in. What are you going to do about it? Like, are you going to, as you say, like, let life's problems pull you down as they fucking probably already have? I think.
Or you can swim in the problems, which is like complain about them.
Whinge about them. Yeah, yeah.
Whinge about them, moan about them, complain about them. Or you can just be like, I'm going to command this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to be the captain.
I would imagine, like, as you were saying it, like, I'm very visual. I'm like visualizing, yeah, this ship, and then it's sinking anyway, and you got people jumping off and they're swimming and like whinging.
Like, you can let your problems sink you.
Yeah.
You can swim in them and feel bad about yourself. Oh, I'm drowning. Oh, look at me. Or you can just command the problems.
Exactly.
Like, the problem is it exists anyways.
That's right. You can
how do you deal with them?
Start commanding against them and like having a crack at them. You might be inferior plan, right? But it's better than the other two, and of which you're going to come to like the critical point where it doesn't work anymore, and you're going to go, okay, that doesn't fucking work, and we're going to make a better plan, right? So yeah, absolutely. Like, you can never, and it's never really worked, I guess, for me to be able to swim in my problems, go down and be fucking, you know, doomsday about it. It's never served anyone. You actually find yourself further back than whenever it is that you started. Just taking control and commanding, you might not always get, like, you're not always going to get the win, but you're going to move forward and you're going to find yourself into a better plan. I say sometimes the best plan that you got is to grab as much as you possibly can and work like fucking crazy until you figure out what the best plan is. Yeah. Right? And
you might be captaining. You might be the captain of like a plank of wood.
Yeah,
right.
But that's all
right.
You
might be the captain of a little tiny little inflatable boat. You know, you might have a super yacht. Right? It doesn't matter. Just be the captain.
Yeah.
And the last part of that quote, which is like, you might get the last word in, but I'm going to get the last laugh in.
Yeah.
Which means like someone might cast some hate at you. They might say a negative comment. They might say some shit to someone else about you. They might say it to your face, you know. Whatever the rhetoric, whether it's Maggie or Jody or like whoever, right, that says something, you don't have to respond. That's the point of the quote I take. You don't have to verbally respond. If someone says some hateful shit in your comments, whatever, just laugh. Like,
don't worry about it.
You can get a word in, I'm going to laugh. Because what do you do after a laugh? You can't reply to a laugh unless you laugh back. You know what I mean? Like, if someone says some nasty shit and you laugh, what else you got?
Yeah.
You ever insulted someone and they just laugh? Like, what you get another insult and they just laugh at that? Like you can't get past that. And the point is, I think if whatever the friction is, whatever the negativity is, if you find a way to laugh of it, if you find a way to laugh it off, laugh at it, like you win. But if you respond to it verbally, you lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you give it energy. Also, we get the last laugh when we're laughing all the way to the bank, brother. So fuck y'all.
Yeah, we need to move further away from the bank so we can laugh longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, more not too much laughing at the bank.
Well, Brad, this has been a ton of fun.
It's been great. It's been fun.
I love jamming out, dude. You got some really great quotes. Made me laugh a lot, and it gave me a lot to think about. And yeah, you're always welcome back, dude. Today was a blast. We had a ton of fun. And if you're listening to this and you have a favorite quote, let us know in the comment section what your favorite quote is, where you found it, and why you love it.
Thanks for having us, bro.
See you next time, bro.
It was fun. See you then.
Adios.
Yo, my name's Dain Walker and I am disgustingly obsessed with branding. I had to figure out a way to do branding every single day, so I branded myself. Then, I started my agency, RIVYL. And hired a team of branding mavericks hell-bent on creating brands so good that they'll make your competition shit their pants. So here's the thing, you want your brand to go viral and RIVYL makes brands go viral. That's why we're offering you a free 30-minute branding session to get an expert's opinion. If you don't believe me, the proof is in the pudding. Here's what clients have to say about RIVYL.
RIVYL is trusted by brands like Nutrition Warehouse, Light My Bricks, and Vumi.
So if you want to absolutely smelt the competition and make your brand go viral, hit the link below and book in your free 30-minute branding session.